Well, Ian,
Hi, Gordon.
why don't you start by giving us a little bit of your background, where you grew up, your family, how you come to New Creation?
Well, I grew up in Wichita, Kansas, and that's where a lot of my family is. Um, and then how I came to New Creation, well, we were not living, we were moved from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I was doing my degree in art therapy up in a school up there. And Prairie View here, I mean, really pretty seriously, if you looked around for art therapy jobs, there weren't that many places that were hiring for a full-time art therapist. In the country, Prairie View was hiring for a full-time art therapist. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, okay, maybe Newton. And which was not our plan. We'd been living other places. We hadn't been living here, but we moved back here. And we just moved down the street, lived down the street from here.
Right.
And so we had actually been pretty active in a church up in Milwaukee, which had fewer people than this church. And so then when we came here, it was like, oh, this feels pretty similar. This feels like what we'd want. So.
All right. I actually knew your parents.
What's that?
I knew your parents.
Yeah.
We were together in the peace movement back in the 80s.
Well, and I think I told people that my dad was actually baptized in New Creation here.
Oh, is that right?
A number,
that.
before I was born.
Huh, interesting.
So that was another connection we had, which I didn't know until we started coming here. But.
So, art therapy, what is that?
Yep, don't know.
Quick answer. What do you do in your time there?
Well, we could talk about this a little bit, but I kind of feel like the passage from Exodus was a pretty good illustration of art therapy.
So you burn idols? Is that what you do?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes. I don't know. I think it actually is an interesting thing to me that I've kind of been lucky in a way that I've never had like a elevator speech. I've never, or whatever that's called, This is what art therapy is. I've never really felt like I need to, because I think people kind of have their own ideas of what art therapy is or what art therapy isn't. And I don't really know how I would sum it up in terms of what I do, other than I think what this picture up here. This is a picture that I painted,
wow.
And it's on the wall. I mean, I'm still working on it. It's on the wall of the studio that I work in, mm-hmm. And there's actually more to it than this now. But it's a aquarium, and I think like, well, what is my job? What do I try to do? Well, I try to take care of the aquarium.
Okay.
I mean, meaning that I try to, and I'm always thinking like, how does this kind of connect in with the Exodus thing? But I try to take care of the aquarium, meaning what I know because I grew up having aquariums as a kid, and the thing I like about the aquarium, the aspirational quality of the aquarium, is once you set it up, once you create the ecosystem, it takes care of itself.
Okay.
And I think that's really all I'm trying to do.
Okay. Do you work mainly with adults or with
Yeah, I work with adults. I used to do more groups, which kind of made the aquarium thing make sense, and I do fewer groups now. I do groups, but I work a lot individually with people.
Okay. So do you work with people that have experienced trauma? Is that one of the things you do? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I work with everybody. I mean, the only thing I really don't do, if you're asking me, well, I don't work with real little kids, but I work with kids.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
I mean, yeah, I work with anybody. One thing I'll say is that I think is true about art therapy in terms of one thing that I could say is kind of a fact, is I think that people often think that, like, well, artists would be particularly well suited for art therapy and non-artists maybe not so much, but really I think it's the opposite.
Oh, really? Is that right?
Like, artists are typically not, and it's not that I work with plenty of artists and it's fine, but it's like people kind of have their own sense of what their own capability, and if you're not an artist, it's like, man, we're just gonna burn stuff. Like, okay, let's just burn stuff. Like, okay, which, I mean, I don't actually burn stuff with people because I can't, but we often think, boy, it would be fortunate if we could burn this, so.
So art is a big part of your life. How has that influenced your life, or how did you become an artist?
I mean, I think, I mean, I do think there's some truth to, we're probably all artists. Truthfully, I don't even like the word artist, because it's like it's not about that. If you're in the aquarium, I guess you're a fish or something, but if you're aquarium, you're just trying to take part, you know?
Okay.
And it doesn't matter if somebody's an artist or not an artist. It's not. I was thinking about this the other day. I don't even like the reason why I don't have a good elevator speech, I don't think, is because I don't even like the idea of like expressing yourself. Like, it's like, I think it's beyond that. You're only trying to take part, you know, and this stuff maybe comes out of you, but ultimately it's not of you. You're trying to take part in the larger picture. You're trying to take part in the ecosystem.
That's probably a good description of Christians, what we're called to be, right?
Just take part in the world, right?
Yeah. Well, you speak like an artist.
Oh, yeah.
What would people find surprising about you?
Well, I was going to use that. When we were talking about that, I was going to use, so kind of cut the chase. I used to have aquariums as a kid. And I think that's surprising because I have no desire to have an aquarium today, except, I mean, I guess a couple things. Like, it occurred to me after I started painting this, it was like, oh, wait, I do have an aquarium, but it's the studio. It's like literally what I'm trying to do. I mean, so, and then I also like the idea of helping other people set up aquariums. I think, like, if somebody was like, hey, can you help me set this up? I would, because I was like, oh, I like that idea of kind of setting up this space and taking care of it. I think that the reason why I'm kind of turned off of it now is that when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, if I think back on it, like, I've never enjoyed the aquariums. It was always really pretty traumatic. I especially started off like with an aquarium that could not support life. Like, it was just a plastic thing. And nobody told me that you really couldn't support life in this aquarium. It was just so tiny. And I would get these fish and I would try to take care of them, and it would just always be just watching them die. Right? I mean, it's just over and over again, just watching them die. And if I think back on it, and I still think of it, like, I eventually kind of got good to it, and I got to this place where, like, the ecosystem could kind of support itself. But it was just a long time, and really, it's like, man, like, I don't know. I mean, it was just a lot of watching stuff die. So.
Grief and lament, also part of life. I remember our son brought home a guppy from school one day, and he was told it's a male guppy, but in a week there were 9 guppies.
Yeah.
And then another week they all died.
Wow.
Yeah. Music is a big part of your life too. How did that develop?
I mean, well, I don't know. So the answer that I like, and the answer that's probably true, is that I was forced to do it, which is not bad. And you know, it's one of those things too where, like, so I wouldn't ever call myself a musician other than kind of just fact of the matter. Like, I play music.
Yeah.
I play the piano.
In a generic way,
Yeah, I kind of, the way I've been thinking about it recently, another part about being in the aquarium is that, so if you do take part in my groups, we're probably listening to the Bach cello suites, and that's been true for the last 10 years or so. So that's why when I guesstimated how often I've listened to the Bach cello suites, I think I guessed about 13,000 times.
Wow.
Listened to them, and so then I think, like, oh, okay, so if you gave me a cello, I'd probably be able to play these, just like, I mean, just automatically. But then I was thinking, like, oh, well, that's probably true that, you know, I was forced into this music thing, And so, you know, like piano is probably my second instrument, but I don't know what my first instrument is.
Yeah, you played drum and piano.
Oh yeah, I play drum too, so that's my third
So
instrument.
what's your first is?
I don't know what my first instrument is. But I think
Aquarium, you
I
play
play
aquarium.
piano pretty well for it being my second instrument.
And you've gotten into jazz more.
Yeah, that was forced too.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So which I really don't mind this idea of like force, and maybe that, I don't know, that connects with the Exodus thing, I feel like, in a way. But like, I don't know, it's, yeah, no, that, I mean, I got into it because I had to, because I didn't know what I was getting into. And
Must have grown to like it.
yeah, grown to take part in it. Like, I guess, like I don't know. I mean, it's just a recognition that, like, no, we have to figure out how to take part in stuff and how to join in. And I don't know what it is about it other than to say I just kind of accept that we live in a creative world. We live in a creative space. And so, like, how do you do it, you know? I don't, you know, and I try not to think about things as being like good and bad. Like I said, like, we don't even talk about, like, when people say, like, I'm creative, or it's like, no, man, I don't think anybody's creative. Like, we're just taking part. You take part, right?
Okay. Creative to that extent.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, willing to join in
Yeah, right, yeah.
and figuring it out, you know?
So a more holistic view of artistic creation or whatever.
Yeah, like, yeah.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, yeah, I like music, I guess. Or I like
So
music.
to play it and to listen to it, both?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I listened to I was just thinking about this because I was literally just doing it, but then I do it most every day. I listen to a lot of Duke Ellington. And
A lot of what?
Duke Ellington.
Oh, Duke Ellington, sure.
And the thing I was thinking about that's cool, and the thing that I try to understand, because I think this is a cool idea, is that somebody once said kind of the difference between like culture and competition kind of is that in culture you don't ever beat Duke Ellington, you only ever play along with Duke Ellington.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's just, to me, it speaks to how time works, in that there's something timeless, you know, you're just trying to play along.
Right, yeah.
You're not trying to beat anything, you're not trying to change anything, you're just trying to play along.
Be in harmony.
Know
Yeah.
that Duke Ellington is in the room, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, Duke Ellington is always,
Okay.
is always in the room with you.
That's good, good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else you want to add?
Well, only that I think the idea, like, with the Exodus thing and with the patience thing, I think patience is part of it. Just if anybody's like confused as to why I picked that, because we were talking about like what's a good art passage, and I was like, well, I think this is a good art passage, and I think because what it does for me is it really speaks to all sides of this, mostly in the image of Moses, in the fact that he's bringing down these tablets to his people, and he's saying, this is the law. But the flip side of that is he's destroying the tablets that he's bringing down to his people.
Okay.
And I think that's the creative process, creation and destruction, which leads to creation, which leads to destruction, leads to creation.
Okay.
So I think that what I was thinking about, like, how do I do art? That is basically, and then you grind it up, you burn it, and then you force it, feed it to people. that part, I don't know, that part sounds bad, but I also think it's true, man. You.
We'll try to read that metaphorically rather than.
Okay, yeah, so that's it.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing from your life.
Welcome, thank you.
Okay.